Well, hello, welcome to another of our Coping with COVID times, and it is a great pleasure of mine today to be able to welcome a friend, uh, Professor Ian Wiseman. I know you probably don't want to be called Professor at this stage because you're retired, Ian, but it's lovely to have you with us. You were Professor of Pharmacology at NMU, and you're a Christ follower committed to the church. You're a husband, a father, a grandfather. And I want to say at a personal note, if I can, just say that I have had the occasional coffee meeting with you over the 12 and a half years I've lived in Port Elizabeth. And I want to say I've walked away from every single one of them feeling encouraged. And that, I think, is a great gift. And so I'm very grateful for your presence here. I know that you're known a bit in our town or in our city. And I'm just grateful that you've taken time to have a conversation. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Good to be with you. And it's a privilege to just be able to take part. And I've enjoyed your interviews along the line and your Sunday services. So to be here, it's a great privilege. Thank you.
And if we can, the purpose of our being here and chatting is to say that obviously the coronavirus has caught many of us, as it were, unawares. The world suddenly changed, and we've been struggling in different ways to cope. The one thing I didn't say, and I didn't ask your permission even to do this, but let's just say that you are older than I am. And so I think you're in touch with some of the challenges of aging. And I think that this time has put particular pressure on some of the elderly. And that doesn't exclude the others, but I think there is a unique kind of pressure that's happened for the elderly. And I wondered if we could start just to say, how has this virus perhaps affected you personally? Has it in particular ways touched on your life, you know?
Yeah, the vulnerability, obviously, I'm in the age group, just as many other people are. They could be considered vulnerable. So it's been a challenge. I think on a personal note, we've had a challenge. We have a granddaughter who's in the 5th year nursing a daughter in Ginza, and she tested positive for the virus. She's come through it wonderfully well. She's fully fit again, and in fact, she got married last Saturday. So that's the closeness of the virus and the realization that the vulnerability of this affects us all. And with it, Rowan, it's brought an increased level for many people of anxiety, a loss of control. And I believe that creates within us a stress level.
Yeah. And then I think, in your sense, your experience of, you've obviously been interested in health issues, and do you have particular observations, perhaps guidance tips on that could help us if we focus on that issue of anxiety? Are there particular things that you think are helpful? Perhaps you could just tell us, because I think that you have done some work around that.
We have. We all know that stress, chronic stress, has a negative effect on our immune response. And of course, at a time like this, we need to have an immunity that's as strong as possible. So if we are able to cope with exaggerated stress, it's often valid, we accept that, but how do we cope with it? And what comes to mind was a letter that was sent out to all the frontline pharmacists by the chairperson of our local branch, Alice Latergan. And she said I could end this letter with words from Mr. Mandela or Mother Teresa, but I've chosen to end the words using St. Paul's words. And they are that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but he's given us power and love and a sound mind. And I think we have to move from fear to optimism and bravery. How do we do that? I think that's your question.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a mindset at this stage, and let's look at a couple of possible ways of coping, Rowan. Okay. I can be led by you there.
Yeah. Could you mention perhaps just a couple of them, and I might just interrupt you as you go.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, we have to connect with others. We can't do this on our own, and we've experienced, I'm sure, people who are able to be sharing with us this morning or this evening, they would be aware of kindnesses that have come their way, and they've probably also been involved with offering kindnesses to other people. So we need to connect with others.
Can I interrupt you then and just say, don't you think one of the unique challenges has been, though, that connectedness has been one of the most severely interrupted things about our being together. Hey? So what's your sense of that? Yeah.
It has. And I think, you know, the social distancing is really physically distancing because socially we're still intact. But somehow there's that vital dynamic, you know, to hug your children, your grandchildren. We can't do that at the moment. So that physical connectivity is gone. I agree with that. But I think in terms of what we're able to do with modern technology, that's been a great help. So yes, we've lost, but there's certain things we've learned in the process. But another thing too, Ryan, is the necessity to maintain a routine as best we can. Okay. You know, routine brings a sense of calmness. And if we are looking at protecting our level of immunity to the highest level possible, then routine is good. Meals at the same time, if it's getting back to school, and that's possible now for many, if we are able to have little rituals that bring routine into our life, I think that's also important.
Okay. Do you have, and I haven't warned you about it, but to say, why does routine matter? If you know, in what way is that a stress reliever?
Okay. Well, I would not claim to have any specific neurological expertise, but we do know that parts of the brain where there is anxiety and decision making, that area of the brain, that gets conflicted. So if we're anxious, we can't actually make good decisions. We're worried, we're anxious. So when we get into a routine, that just brings calmness. And that's a part of the brain is able then to think more clearly. We become calmer, and routine allows us to just build in, if you like, an ability to think more clearly and to make a decision that's better and get rid of some of that anxiety. Yeah. Difficult, but there is an explanation and a reason why routine can be helpful.
It's immensely helpful, eh? Have you got a third one for us?
Well, yes. I think obviously exercise. We all know that, and I don't want to spend time on this, but to reinforce the benefit of exercise, because exercise, without us knowing it, releases a substance like serotonin, which is a mood elevator. It releases, we well know, the endorphins, the endogenous morphine, and we just feel better after exercise. So I know it's been difficult. Yeah. We've been in lockdown. Yeah. And I know exercise now has been allowed and we're free to move. So we're back into that. And that has been a saving grace for many, many people. So exercise, yes.
And Ian, sorry if I can just interrupt you and ask you, again, I know I don't want to put you on the spot, but to say, I think some of the people listening today will find mobility under normal circumstances difficult. So if they hear this, to kind of go, just getting from my kitchen to my bathroom is enough of a challenge. Is there a word for us, or do we have to recognize that for some exercise will not be a remedy?
Yeah. Sadly, that's correct. That for the immobile, the wheelchair bound, we have to accept that that's in terms of the inability to move. They won't be able to have the benefits of the physical activity that we've been talking about. Yeah, we accept that. Yeah. That's a limitation, and it's a coping mechanism in terms of the person who's immobile. It's a difficult one, Rowan, and there isn't really a quick answer to that one.
Yeah. So we just recognize that some of these things aren't possible for some people, and they face unique challenges, perhaps.
Absolutely, and it may be that we have to look at a couple of other things that, in terms of still having a sense of meaning and purpose. I believe that's very important. That we have to be able to find joy. Yes. If you like, in little moments. Now, joy in little moments may be that cup of coffee, that chat that we're having online with somebody, picking up the phone. It may be that sunset, that sunrise. Yeah. It may be a good laugh. Yeah. So the joy in little moments, I think that's something we have to hold on to, and that's possible for all of us.
Yeah, and there's something in that joy issue that has the undertone of gratitude. I imagine. Hey.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a wonderful concept, the gratitude. I also believe that we need to limit our news intake, Brian.
Yeah.
We've all been subjected to some really correct but very morbid newscasts where everything is going wrong, whether it's social distancing, whether it's increasing cases, whether it's the finances of the country and the world. There's so much negativity. We need to hear it. We're not in denial, but we need to limit our news intake if we are really suffering and battling to cope with anxiety. And perhaps 30 minutes a day. And just be informed, not to be uninformed, and then to pick our sides. You know, there's Centers for Disease Control, there's World Health Organization, there's our local, our national information that we need to listen to, and we need to listen to it carefully and remember to wash our hands and wear our masks. That goes. But I think the point that we're talking about today is not only those physical things, but it's also to make sure that we have a mindset that allows us to cope and to avoid catastrophic thinking, if that's possible.
Can I push you on that a little bit, just to say, because I hear you saying, like, so be careful with your news intake. That means, so be careful who we listen to, and then you speak a bit about mind. I'm going, do you have another word just to say, how do we look after our minds? Is there a comment from you about keeping our mindset healthy? Because I think that's it. For me, that feels like a key one, you know.
Well, one of the key factors, I believe, difficult to do for me, but to be still. To be still. And we could quote Psalm 46, I think, be still and know that I am God. But to be in a state of meditation, our prayer, I really believe that we are being tested now to be able to develop the ability to be still. And how do we do that? I mean, Rowan, you would be able to guide us here, but in meditation, in contemplative prayer, there are ways to do this. And I know this wasn't the topic for our discussion this morning, but you asked me, how do we do it? My belief is that we need a practice to be still. And I think that's part of the clue.
Yeah. And I know we've got to come to an end soon, but what I like about what you say there is I think that, and not wanting to diminish the weight or the burden of it, but to say that I think many people have struggled with loneliness in a time like this, and some capacity to transform at least part of the lonely time into a stillness time would be a great gift, I think, you know.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the point in our quietness to be aware of others, and somehow if we can pray for somebody else as well, I just believe that lifts us into another level.
Yeah.
But of course, what we're looking at, I think, is what is the secret of inner peace? And I come back to where we started, to let go of the need to be in control and rest in the confidence that God is in control.
Yeah.
That might sound almost glib. I don't mean it to be. But sometimes we fight this on our own, and because we're fighting it and I'm not winning the battle, there's fear. So to move towards inner peace by letting go and surrendering, I believe that's part of the way forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine that's the ongoing challenge for all of us, is coming to some terms of acceptance that this is how it is, and how do I manage this, because I can wish for it to change, but reality is reality, you know.
Absolutely. We know this, and we want to agree on this, I think, but we know that the coronavirus will run its course. We'll once again be able to hug our family members. We'll be able to attend church and celebrate again. We know that. But it's to get from where we are now to that point. And I believe, you know, we've used the word faith. What does that mean in this situation? I really believe we have to review our purpose in life, our values. I really believe it's a moment for all of us to be still, coming back to where we were earlier.
Yeah, thank you. Ian, we did have a chat about where we'd like this conversation to go, and I've been grateful for your work on that. I wondered, like, if before we end, if you had some sense of, just a general sense. So I haven't warned you about it, but just like a greeting for us, a good word for us. I think the religious word would be a benediction, but just like a sending away to say to folk, and just however you want to say it and however much time you want to take, but just a kind of a sense of saying to folk, we have a group of people. I think people who will choose to listen to this, some of them might be going, I'm really looking for some help to cope. Have you got a goodbye word for us before I say goodbye?
Well, I really believe we need to know that we're loved. I really believe we need to let other people know that they're loved. I believe we're standing apart now, that we can embrace each other later. And that sacrifice that we're making now will allow us to do just that. So I would come back to where we were. We need to reach out to each other. I believe that's happening, Rowan, in an amazing way. There's depths of relationships that have increased because of this. So I would say that we have to hang in, we have to move from our fear to bravery and optimism that I mentioned earlier. And coming back, that certainty of hope. I believe we need to hold on to that, whatever that means, because some people are in difficult situations. They maybe have loved ones in hospital, and that's a dire situation. So our prayer, our love goes out to them. Yeah. And that's where I would be at this stage.
Thank you, Ian. And just to say in closing that in our conversation, we spoke about the possibility. You gave us a lovely list of possible things, and we spoke about, should we just speak about one of them? But we decided to do a shotgun and to throw lots of little breadcrumbs into the pond, if you like. And I'm grateful for those multiple thoughts, and I trust that those who listen will perhaps go back and consider, perhaps make notes, write down, and just consider them, because you've given us great wisdom and great helpfulness. And so thank you for your time, and thank you for this conversation. And may God indeed bless us, not with a spirit of fear, but one of courage and good hope and a sound mind. And so God bless you, and to Joyce as well, and God go with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go well, Brian. Thank you for the opportunity.
Bye-bye.